Hi, it's Dawn from Dawn's Dirt, and I'm very excited today to have my guest, Bret Howe. And Bret has been a friend of mine in the same coaching program that I'm taking through Kaler Betts, and actually a client of mine this summer in the garden coaching program. So welcome here, Bret. And could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. So thanks, Dawn, so much for having me and just being my mentor and helping me grow food this past season. So I am Bret Howe. We live out in an acreage. We have 22 acres. Actually, we are trying to sell in Saskatchewan, so Eston, Saskatchewan. And I am an athlete mindset coach. So a couple years ago, I started working and joined a program that Dawn's already mentioned, where I had some life coaching and then I got into becoming a coach myself. Now, I currently still work with that program, which is Awaken Winning, but I also am an athlete mindset coach. So I started my own coaching business where I help elite level female hockey players really hit their full potential on and off the ice and breaking through the barriers around their confidence. So that's what I do. I have 4 kids of my own, a wonderful husband, and yeah, we just are really creating this life where we're going towards self-sustainability. So that's, I guess, what brought us ultimately together.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Absolutely. And that's how we met was through Kaler. And yeah, you became a client of mine. So we're here today to talk about food and the program and why food is important and growing your own food is so important. So can you tell me, why did you want to start growing your own vegetables? Why was that important to you and your family?
Yeah, and I will tell you, like, it's always been something that, my grandmother did, and I've tried and failed in the past, but more so important throughout COVID because quite honestly, I was exposed to so much of what I like to call big food and how our vegetables don't look, don't taste the way they should. I was very fortunate in my childhood where I grew up actually half time in Canada and half time in England. So I spent my summers in England, and my grandma had a huge garden and she grew all her own food. And I recognized that there is something different about the taste and the quality of the food you get. You know, food isn't meant to last weeks. Some of the foods that last week on the shelf are not meant to last that long. So when we grow our own, we get a good idea of what that is. Quite honestly, we're a family of 6. All you have to do is sit around our table to see how much food we go through. So financially, I knew it was a wise decision. Now my husband and I are pretty animal based with mixing in a few fruits, and yeah, we do the occasional vegetable, but our kids are really just a whole food nutritional diet. So growing my own food has definitely become on the forefront. I don't really trust these big companies, what they put in their food. I don't like processed foods.
No.
We actually just recently started, my husband's family started, finishing cattle. So they started with 2, they grass fed, grass finished, and now we're at 4. And basically we all help. And then we take one of the cows once they cull and cut it up for meat, and we live off that. And then the gardening is such a great asset. So essentially what we'd like to do is have like 80% of our own food on the table.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. And I think everyone should eat like you do. Like that's where it's at. It's at meat and it's at vegetables and it's at just the regular, normal, good, wholesome, real food and not that shit craft dinner, right? Like, yeah. Wow. Yeah. So
Which have
very
you
cool.
tasted craft dinner lately? Like I had it growing up. I
Yeah.
will be honest, I had a terrible diet growing up. But oh my gosh, I tasted craft dinner like a year ago, and I was like, they've even gotten more and more chemicals in there. Like it's more fake than it's ever been.
Yeah, and I have that when I eat food. I can actually feel it, like I taste chemical. Like I don't always eat great and sometimes I cheat, right? And I taste that it's not real food tasting. It tastes like a chemical going into your body. And yeah, it's physical and it's not good food at all. Well, it's not food. I hate that we even call it food. I hate that, even in a grocery store, if you do go to a grocery store, that you're going around and, they call these aisles like health food and regular food, and it's not food. It's packaged shit that's been processed and put in a box for you to eat, maybe. Oh, it's
Yeah,
gross.
100%.
Yeah. So, I love that for your family. So what's your biggest challenge when you first started gardening? So when you were talking about your grandma and how you used to garden and then you didn't know how to anymore. And I think that's very common. I think that we have, as a society, we've come away from gardening. We've come away from growing our own food. I love that you're raising your own beef. We've come away from that. And so to get back into that, like it's how to learn that, and then we can pass that down for generations. So yeah, what's your biggest challenge when you started growing and gardening? When did you start, and what's your challenges?
Yeah, I legit, like, I kill everything. And like, I think I told you that from day one. I kill everything. But here's actually what I've really uncovered to be the biggest challenge, because the life I live now is so different and it is conducive to being able to grow your own garden, to be able to raise your cattle, is we are in the society as a whole where we are conditioned to believe that we have to go to a 9 to 5 job, that our kids have to be in the regular school system. We don't have time to actually grow our own garden or raise our own cattle. It's a lifestyle. It's not actually just like a hobby you do on the side. It's a lifestyle that needs to be implemented into your actual life, and it becomes part of what you do. So how do we break free from that? And what was my biggest challenge is I was a working mom in the corporate world, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I had zero time to do that. So how did I actually break through that challenge? Well, I disconnected from the corporate world. I am my own boss. My husband is his own boss. We've broken free from that system. And now we have the ability, the time management to be able to create a garden and to be able to nurture that garden. Now, I still do kill a lot of things, but I definitely have grown. So my number one challenge still I face today is like if we're getting down to it, like the overwatering and the watering cycle, and making sure that I don't overwater, or
Yeah.
water enough. Those are the like actual problems. But what the big problem was when I started was like time.
Yeah. I can see that for sure, having time to grow and time to do things. Like when I was farming full time, that's what I did. Well, I didn't even physically do the work myself. I had people help me. And yeah, this year I had my own little space for the first time. I gardened for fun this year. And yeah, coming home from work and watering and doing all the things. So in the coaching program, I had given you some tips and tricks and things like that. Were you able to implement those, and how did that work for you?
Yeah, like little things like how to take my watering further. Obviously, I still have a ways to go to actually make myself extremely efficient in that. But even like growing certain vegetables together, what to put in your actual garden plot, and what to put in your garden boxes, like those, oh my gosh, like a world of difference.
Hmm.
I joked that the program itself was the investment of all the squash I produced. It was insane how much squash I produced this year.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. So there's certain things that I grew that I never knew I could grow. I still have miles to come, but I think that's the growth, right? Like the fact that I didn't
Yeah.
kill everything is a huge success for me. And now I know a little bit more, and I'll continue to go in the program and take more and more that I can. What I did was I literally dumbed it down to myself so I could just focus on the things. And I think you even said, don't try and do too much your first year. Like, keep it simple. So I looked at my family. What do we consume the most of? My mother-in-law was growing a garden too. So I made sure that we like kind of like, what can we both do? What are we both good at? And I focused on that. And then next year I'll just add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, like not everything grows really well. Peppers are really hard to grow. You got some though, right?
We got a few, but then I don't know what happened. I think I overwatered or I left them too long. So yeah.
Yeah. The irregular watering, that does make a difference on those plants, especially those sensitive plants like tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers. Yeah, but don't try and that's what we had a conversation about. Don't try and do everything. Just do a few things, do them well, and then you can add something next year. Or, and do the simple things that will work. Squash is easy. Squash was so easy. And now did you plant spaghetti squash?
I did, and I
And
still have a ton.
exactly, right? And spaghetti squash and squash are one of my favorites, because you can take that squash and it doesn't need refrigeration. It doesn't need You just put it in your home and you have it all winter. I have my squash sitting in my hallway right now, a big stack of it. And it's just that easy. And then we're of the same page, and we worry about what happens. Think of the toilet paper wars. The grocery stores, basically almost grinded to a halt in some ways. And so squash. You've got squash for your family in the winter here in Alberta or Saskatchewan, where is it snowing there right now?
It is outside right now. It's snowing.
Yeah. Yeah. So how are we going to grow a garden now? Well, we don't need to. We've got squash and there's other things. I've got a lettuce tower growing here, with lettuce in it. And yeah, food. It's growing food for your family. So what was your favorite vegetable to grow and why? What was your favorite part of it?
Okay, I love growing zucchini because our family just loves zucchini, like every single one of us. And then that zucchini, so once we got sick of zucchini, I would make it into zucchini bread. So I think, and then it's frozen. So it's actually in our freezer right now. It's used up. So I think that was my favorite one. And it was just like so quick. So like once it started producing, it was like I'd go out the next day and there'd be like a huge zucchini and my daughter would come out and help me. And that was awesome to grow. Now my in-laws had an extremely successful amount of cucumbers. Like we have pickles. I think we've made over 100 jars of pickles between like our families. So that is also was awesome because I loved going out to my in-laws, picking the cucumbers with them and like making it a family thing and then pickling them and seeing like the preservation of our gardening is so awesome because like my family also loves pickles. Like they would go through a jar a day if they were allowed to.
If they were allowed to. Well, and I love that. And you know what? I love for your kids actually, because how old are your kids? They're little, right?
We
They're
have,
under 10.
yeah, they're like 9 and under.
Okay, so your little kids are going out to the garden with you and picking produce and seeing that, man, this doesn't come from a grocery store. It comes from the ground, and they watch the little plant grow, and they watch the cucumbers produce and the squash and the zucchini, and they watch that process in creation, and I just love that for them. I think that we've lost that in our society in the cities and places where kids don't know where their food comes from when they think that a carrot comes from a grocery store and not out of the dirt. I don't know. So can you speak to that with your children? I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I would say like that probably is the best takeaway from doing this was seeing their contribution and like they came out and watered with me. They came out and kind of saw how the system was set up. They picked with me and then they asked questions and then they were proud. Like their friends would come over. They're like, do you know these carrots are from our garden? And mom, my friend loves these carrots. She said she's never had carrots that tasted better. So they were so proud of what we produced and they helped me from seed. Like they got to see that seed getting planted into the dirt in the red solo cups. They got to help me do all of that and then see
Yeah.
what that transformed into and connect the dots. And say what you will about keeping a kid home and letting them see that process. They learned so much more in that cycle of
Yeah.
growing season than they have in like, 2 months of education system.
Exactly. And you know what? I just actually got physical goosebumps listening to you here, like hearing you say that. And I was thinking too, it's just more of with the course, you've taken the course, you've got the education, you're working with your mother-in-law, and now it's passing down to your kids. And so the course is not just about you, it's about generations really. And your kids are taking what you're learning and they can practice it with their kids and with their kids and their kids. And it can be passed down again where we've lost that in previous generations. It can be passed down. So I love it. So how did the garden impact your daily life and routine? Did it, you said you're a fairly busy person, but you were home more this summer. So how did it affect your routine?
Yeah, we are very busy people. We don't spend a lot of time at home, but we started to appreciate being at home a lot more. I will tell you that how it impacted my routine is it just like we talk about the family bonding, like it just created something that was a non-negotiable for our family. Like, hey, we gotta water these, we gotta like harvest a little bit of it, we gotta do this, and it just became a little bit more of a team event. So I would say it impacted and then it became a priority. And then when we got to like actually put it on our table, that was huge. That was huge to be able to do. So it became a team event for our family, right? So we would be, we'd have our tasks to do throughout the day and then we'd come home and it would be like more of an evening thing or a morning thing where my daughter and I would go and pick the zucchini and I just feel like it impacted our routine because it became something that was a non-negotiable for our family. Like we had to get through it and we had to tackle it, and it became fun because we got to see the fruits of our labor too.
For sure. I love it. And so did your kids help with weeding? Because I can remember as a child, I was told get out in the garden and weed. And I got 25 cents, I think, for an ice cream pail or a 5 gallon pail. I can't even remember, but 25 cents for a pail of weeds. And so did you like for me, my thought with a garden too is it's chores. It teaches work ethic. It teaches, taking care of something. It teaches like that's why I'm so thankful that I grew up on the farm that I did was because it taught me those working skills, not the 9 to 5 skills, but the working skills to be able to
Yeah.
create a business or to be able to run my own farm or to do what you're doing, right? And so, yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I will tell you that I want to improve that, like the chore set that they have to do, like the weeding part. I wasn't even very good at it. There was parts of our garden that, that's something I got to improve on next year is the weed control. It was insane. Which you had told me like that is like I had laid down, stuff to prevent it as much as I could. But at the end of the day, there was issues with that. So as far as the weeding, that's something that I definitely have to task the kids with a little bit more. It was our first year of really trying it out as a family. And I will tell you, I grew up on a farm too, a cattle ranch, and I, like at 5 years old, was carrying buckets of grain. So it is something that I see like, and I say to my husband, like, our kids don't know what hard work is yet. Like they don't actually know what it means
Yeah.
to like have the lifestyle and the livelihood where you actually have to put in the work. I didn't get allowance at all. I actually like made money. I worked and then I had enough money by the time I was 16 to buy my first vehicle because I worked so darn hard. But that's what I want for my kids is to know what it means to work and create something. So, we will only grow from the level of input that they have in the garden. Next year it'll be more. And the weed control is something that I learned a really hard lesson on, and I can't wait to like apply that for next year.
Well, and that's the thing with gardening and growing is, and farming really, is there's always next year. And while you're even in the moment this year, you're already dreaming and thinking about, I would do this next year or I would do that next year. And it's the planning ahead and the, cycles and it's not, gardening is not an instant gratification. It's a long process and it takes time and it takes patience and it takes effort. And yeah, those are valuable lessons as well. So what advice would you give someone who is just starting their first vegetable garden? What would you say to them?
Call Dawn Sturt.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Seriously, I would say like you can read all the books, you can like look online, but there's so much information out there. And I genuinely believe, and this is what I feel about many things, is like hiring someone, having a mentor who's done it, who's living proof of it, that is actually going to help you and it's going to eliminate the noise and you're going to have that support because how many times did I text you throughout the year like, oh, look at this, look at that, what's this?
Yeah.
Like you don't have that. Time is money at the end of the day, right? And if you're spending a lot of time researching things and you're getting mixed information, wouldn't you just rather see someone out there who's doing it, who's done it, who has the expertise and be able to have them as a mentor? I genuinely believe that that has a lot of power. So if someone's starting their first garden, find someone. Like I said, I'd call Dawn Sturt because I've done it.
Thank you.
And find someone who can mentor you and ask questions and like squeeze everything you can out of them so that and then test. Everything is a test.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for the plug. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it really is. I've had that feedback from several of my clients actually saying that they read all the books, they get all the videos, but then there's too much. And really you have to wade through it because wherever you are in the world, you might be in a different growth zone. You might have different, length of day. There's so many variables. And then even just being able to, this is one thing I'm able to do now because of my years of experience is I can read a plant. And so, to take a text picture and read and go, oh, this is what's going on, or that I can answer that question specifically to you or to whoever it might be. So yeah, it was a great relationship. And that's really what it was a relationship. I was a person, a body at the end of a, phone call or text, and it went both ways. It was relational.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how has your perspective on food changed since you've started growing it yourself? Now, you had a very strong perspective to start with, but even this summer, has it changed at all?
It's only grown, like my conviction of growing your own food and raising your own, beef has only grown, honestly. It just to be able to grow it and like the gratification of that, like you said, it's not instant gratification, which I am like anti-instant gratification. Anything in this world that provides instant gratification, no bueno, like avoid it.
Yeah.
Something that takes its time and effort into like developing, it's so much more rewarding and fruitful. So I just know that like the taste, the consumption of it alone, like that conviction, but every aspect of what I felt going into growing my own food has only grown in conviction. The more that's exposed in this world, I'm like thankful that now I also have like preserved that food with my in-laws, and I know that I could like turn to like what I've got stored from the garden, from growing and preserving, and trust what I'm putting in my body and what I'm feeding my kids, which is so much more important than anything because they're the next generation. And we tell that all the time. Like, our kids they play hockey and we like basically live at the rink. And guess what they do at the rink is they have deep fried food, which is like totally contradictory of why you're at an arena anyways. Aren't you at an arena to like hit a next level of personal growth, physical activity, and then we're fueling our bodies with shit at the end of the day, with garbage. So
Yeah.
we've actually been very bullish on like we pack all our own food. We keep them like eating healthy. And yes, we are that weird family, but I think in today's world, you want to be the weird family because if not, you're like succumbing to the norms of society, which are not helping us stay healthy and fit and, happy and content. So yeah, I think that my perspective is only growing. We're like more and more bullish on like having our families eat whole foods. If we have grown it and it's through the winter, even better. But we're more and more convicted in it than we've ever been.
I love it. That's amazing, honestly. And to me, I feel like if everyone grew a garden in their backyard, we wouldn't have any as many food shortages. So that's something. And it would make food just that. I think we should go back to the way we were in the, 1800s where an orange was special, or some maybe not quite that extreme, but where you ate seasonally, you ate what you had, you ate locally, you supported your farmers, and really that would save world hunger. In my opinion. And it'd be cool if you went to the restaurant. It'd be cool if you went to the kiosk in the hockey rink and they were serving a home cooked meal. How amazing would that be, right? Like that's the way we need to move society back to that, away from this deep fried bullshit and away from, the craft dinner and away from the packaged food and the convenience and into whole foods, just like we were talking about. I love it. Were there any gardening techniques or tips that made a really big difference to you this year? Like what made a difference? What was really helpful? And yeah,
Yeah, funnily enough, like, and I think I chatted with you about this very early on, is like my husband had really studied copper rods in our plants the last couple years. So I put that in the garden and I like this is not a myth. The roots and areas in which that copper rod was inserted into, they thrived beyond belief compared to the ones that didn't. So I did notice a huge difference. And what you helped me with was like what to grow next to each other, like what complements, what goes in a garden bed versus a garden plot. Those are the like tips and tricks that I utilized. And I think that's why I was able to get like the carrot production I got was insane. They were so good. They tasted so good. I know that was like even the seeds, like my grandma in Canada, the one in England was different, but the one in Canada, she'd go and buy the seeds that you would say stay away from those, right? Then I went and got like you gave me the tips on what seeds to actually get with what I had the means to, which was West Coast seeds.
yeah,
And I felt there was a huge difference in those seeds as well, like compared to the ones that I'd grown before that had been on the Walmart shelf for probably 5 years and finally were getting taken away. So yeah,
exactly.
those are
Yeah,
some tips and tricks, I guess.
for sure, for sure. Watering those carrots is so important. Yeah, right early on. Um, so Can you tell me about a moment when you felt especially proud of yourself in the gardening process this year?
Yeah, okay, there's
You've been
two.
to a few of them, but I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So there was two, like obviously the kids and that like family, like how it just grew that bond with us. But where there was one, like so my parents don't really grow their own food. Like my mom grows her own tomatoes, but um they've been raving about the food I bring them, like when we have an influx. And I'm like, here, take this home with you, or I bring it over to them. So they're so proud of that. Like they think that is amazing. And they compliment every time they come, they're like, oh, we love that zucchini. We love that spaghetti squash. It tasted so good. So
Yeah.
that's number one. But then there was a really cool meal that we had at my in-laws, and we were all sitting around, and every single thing on the table was homegrown. So the beef was from the cows they had culled the year before. The salad was all homegrown, like from the Swiss chard to the beets, the carrots, like it was just incredible. Even the like we had raw milk, like it was just like I just looked around and I was like, wow, look at us. I did reference like we are like Hutterites right now. Like we are
Yeah.
literally doing everything on our own. And it was just a really cool like moment for us to look around and laugh at ourselves that like this is how far we've come from the last 4 years.
Wow, that sounds like I'm coming over for dinner. That sounds so good. Like I've had those moments too, and I had it when I was farming actually. I would look at my table of vegetables that I was selling and they were 100% grown on my farm, and the pride, I understand what you're talking about, because the pride you feel knowing that you grew it and you raised it and it's on your plate and it tastes so good. Like vegetables, did you find a difference in taste, vegetables between what you grew and things that you would buy in a grocery store?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely we did. And like just to clarify, like that table was at my in-laws, so I don't take credit for the stuff that was growing, but like we all like it was homegrown for them. Um, so yeah, they and you should come for supper there because they are incredible cooks. Anyways, yes, I do notice a huge difference if I go to the store and buy a tomato or a carrot versus the ones that we had throughout the summer. Totally different.
For sure. So the pride you feel when you've taken the time and grown something, and it's really a success. It's a victory. I love that. Yeah. So how has growing your own vegetables impacted your family and your household, and maybe financially even too? Like if you can speak to that. Did you save some money on vegetables on your grocery bill this summer?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you that, now our grocery bill, I mean, the fact that we don't have to buy meat essentially is huge already, but then just throughout the summer to have our own veggies, even to like our grocery store, I think I've shared this with you, like you go there and you don't know if you're gonna have, like you can't go there with a meal plan idea. You have to actually go there and then create your meal plan because you never know what you're gonna get there, right? So
Yeah.
even knowing like little things. Today I'm cooking supper. I'm like, oh, we have like no veggies. So I'm gonna have to go to the grocery store and get some veggies. Whereas like before, well, I guess we do have squash, but before it's like throughout the whole summer, I'm like, okay, like we don't need to go to the grocery store for anything right now because literally I can make everything that we've got here that we've got from the garden.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So you didn't buy your vegetables this whole summer, you grew them. And so that would be a
Absolutely.
huge savings, you know.
Yeah.
I love it. Did you face any unexpected challenges during the season, and how did you handle them?
Yeah, I will tell you the weeds got out of control, shamelessly tell you that. How did I handle them? Like I just like did what I could and I accepted like, hey, there are plants that have grown through this and they're thriving and I'm going to put my attention and focus into those and I'm just going to have to like cut my losses for these other ones and focus on the ones that are thriving. Then at the end of the year the grasshoppers came and it was like within 3 days,
You told me.
and that was devastating for me because like even we had a raspberry bush that was just like thriving, every single leaf gone. Our tomatoes were thriving, everything like it just got wiped out. Anything that was underground, they just like ate the tops off. So the tops off our carrots, off our beets.
Yep.
But I just like sunk those in, made sure that they stayed in there. But it was devastating, like to see that. Like we had corn coming up that was like beautiful. and it was just about to harvest. And yeah, like within 3 days, like I wasn't able to get there quick enough to actually get rid of them. But what I did is I just like harvested everything we had and called it a season. So that was challenging. The fortunate thing is my mother-in-law's garden was booming. So, and they had no pests at all. She was like on top of her weeding. So thankfully, it wasn't like we had nothing left. It was just our garden was done for the year.
Yeah. And you know what? I can understand. Like, again, I was a vegetable farmer for so many years, and like, please don't feel bad about that. It's not about, it's about production and functionality and doing what you can, right? And so hearing you say that you let the plants, like some of them grew through the weeds, or some of them, I'm sure you even found some plants and some food under the weeds, right? At the end of the year. And I had that, even me at 15 acres of garden, I did that as well. Sometimes the weeds got away from us, and I can remember digging a bed of carrots, going underneath, digging that bed of carrots up, and it looks like it's 100% weeds. And there was a few carrots underneath there. Not production like I should have had, but there was something. And so it's doing what you can and just, yeah, rolling with the punches and going, well, next year maybe better. And with the grasshoppers, I mean, that is really that sounds actually really big, and I don't even know what I would tell you with that, because that so many so fast, so like, how do you even protect from that? I'll be honest with you, I'm even stumped on that one. Eating tomato leaves, hearing that they ate the tomato leaves is mind-boggling, because tomato plants are the last pest that a pest will eat. And so
It
I was
was
doing,
it was
yeah.
insane. Like I have, and you would walk through and you'd be like literally covered head to toe in grass. Like I have never seen it was crickets and grasshoppers, but like they even ate the squash. Like I ran out there and grabbed it, but they were eating the squash. Like it was insanity. Yeah.
That's like,
Really
okay, so
super
what's
fun.
that Bible story about Moses and the plagues? That sounds like biblical almost. Wow.
I know there must have been something like a spiritual thing about that for sure, but I haven't looked
Wow.
into it. Maybe I'm too scared to look into it.
No, 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 but I'm just saying, like, yeah, like, wow. And, well, and I had lost my crops too. I had thrip the very first year that we built our greenhouse. We had the little bug thrip so bad, and it just wrecked all of our cucumbers. We were selling wholesale then, and wholesale you want straight cucumbers, and all of ours had a curl in it, and so they were like number two and almost like garbage cucumbers, and we sold them for like pennies on the dollar. So bugs happen, like that's farming and that's agriculture, even on a small scale in a garden. Like, it just happens. You can't control it sometimes, and that's where we're at the whim of nature and whatever's going on. It's crazy. So how do you see your gardening skills evolving in the future, and what are you excited to grow for next year?
I see that I'm only gonna grow up from here, like get up, like grow from here, I should say. Really scale and expand like what I grow and maybe take out the things that I grew that I like we didn't consume, right? Um, so I just see me like continuing to, utilize you as a resource, ask questions, rig up better systems for like watering for sure. That's number one, is like rigging up a better system for watering. Now, obviously, we're trying to sell our acreage, so my plan is that we won't be here. I love growing in gardening boxes, and that was so simple. So we did purchase one used on buy sell, but then my husband and I made one, and it was incredible. Like it was absolutely easy to make. Also super fun to like carpenter that together. So that's like I'm gonna continue, I think, to like use those skills of being able to like actually create our own bed even and grow through that. What am I excited to grow next year? Super excited to grow squash again, just because the production on that was incredible. Tomatoes are a definite, but Brussels, I really am excited. I missed the boat on those. I'm definitely excited to grow those next year. I think of like the foods my family loves, and those are the things I'm excited to grow. And obviously cucumbers, because the pickles, I just love the pickles that we're able to make. So yeah.
You'll have to fill your whole garden with pickles just so that you can have a jar a day if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
And how special. And the thing is too, like a pack of seeds, it costs you time, but really it's not wasted time. It's valuable time, as I'm hearing you
Yeah.
talk. Like, it costs you a pack of seeds, a little bit of water, well, a lot of water, because sometimes things take a lot of water, but you know time, a pack of seeds, some dirt, and you have like food. And the amount of food you can get out of a little pack of seeds is it outweighs so big. Like, yeah,
Yep.
that's really cool to hear. I'm excited about next year. So I'm excited even about my garden next year. I planted in some boxes this year because I didn't really have a garden spot. So I killed it off this year, and I'm dreaming about next year too. So there's always next
So,
year. Okay, so would you recommend garden coaches to others, and why do you think it's valuable for new gardeners? So we kind of touched on it, but yeah, any more thoughts on that, on hiring me as
yeah. And I think of course, yeah, I see the value, and I've said that, 10 times over, to people that ask, like, having a mentor, someone who's done it, not just like, it's like anything, okay? If you're going to get coaching in anything, don't go for the people who have the degree, because they usually have spent their life getting the degree, the PhD,
yeah,
instead of actually living it out. So I go for the people that have experience, that are living proof that they've done it. If you want a professional tomato grower, well, I'm talking to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm talking directly to one. Why am I going to go? And I think that time is money and energy. And if you're just going to sit and read and get information overload, you're going to be sitting in inaction and indecision, because it's going to have a paradox of choice associated with it. So
yeah,
I would highly recommend coaching, um, in any realm. And just think of, like, it's not necessarily the information you're paying for, it's the delivery of the information. There is only one Don's Dirt. There is only one Bret Howe. So
yeah,
you have to connect with the person. You have to, the fact that we're in alignment, we see the world very similar,
yeah,
even through our faith, like that connection alone,
yeah,
it's huge for me. So finding someone that's in alignment with you, that you can share in those discussions and be open with, like, there's never once where I'm like, eek, I have to watch what I say around Dawn, because I don't know how she's going to feel about this, right? Like, you want you want your mentor to be someone that there is, like, zero judgment, no matter what. But that is the same goal as you have, and that's to grow the best garden within the space you have and give you the tool set to do so. So,
yeah.
I hope that answers your question. It's valuable to new growers because you guys have no idea where to start. If
Yeah.
you're like me and you kill everything that comes your way, you literally need coaching, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and getting the same results. So,
Thank you so much. I like my heart is full and warm right now. Thank you for that plug. And yeah, just as you were talking to, I was thinking of it, and I was thinking you said something about the degree, and that the whole degree thing hit me this year. So I was a farmer for so many years, and I had college students, horticulture college students, come to my farm to learn about horticulture, but it was just a one little tour or things like that. And I visited a place just in the last couple months here, and there were some horticulture students that this person had hired to grow tomatoes. And I'm not trying to slight them at all. I really am not. But these students, these graduated horticulture students, were growing these tomatoes in this dome. And I walked in and I said, your tomatoes are in vegetative state. They're not in production state. Did you have bees in here? How did you pollinate them? They were overgrown and just crazy. So they weren't getting the potential production that they needed. And it hit me at that point that here I am with my practical knowledge uh, over so many years, and I knew how to get production. I knew how to grow the plant and get the tomato. Like, there's one thing about growing the plant and having a plant, it's getting that tomato, which is the goal. And yeah, I've seen the productivity of a college that someone pays tens of thousands of dollars to go to, and here I am, and I'm offering my program for less than that, right? Like, and it's practical. You produced squash this year. You had food this year. And like, to be honest with you, I'm again, goosebumps. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud that you grew your garden, and I'm so proud that you fed your kids and that they learned something, and that even they were so proud of their carrots that they grew, and they were bragging to their friends. I love it, right? And so I just want that for more people. And so yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, and Dawn, here's the thing is, like, I'm proud of you because you are making that impact. And I said to you the second I got onto your program, I think I messaged you. I said, I can feel your passion. And that is when you can feel someone's absolute passion to make an impact, it goes miles. So thank you. Like my gratitude extends to you. And I know you're proud of me, but I couldn't have done it without you. So I owe gratitude to you, and I'm proud of you for creating this for people.
Thank you. And you just made me cry. Yeah. I love people more than I love life itself. And, if I can take the skills that God has given me and help people, that's what I want to do with my life. And so thank you. Wow.
I
You
love
just
that.
made me cry. Oh, I didn't know that we would cry today. So,
Well, here we are.
yes. So, well, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your feedback. I really appreciate the conversation. And yeah, I just encourage more people to grow more food. And any last thoughts from you?
Absolutely not, but I just want to thank you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, guys, if you are even like the slightest want to start learning how to grow a garden and have no idea where to start, here's where you start, because I can tell you that the amount of even financial savings you'll gain from it, but not only that, but like the impact you'll have within your family is exponential. And you might think, how the hell am I going to do it? But I am living proof that you can do it.
Mm, I love it. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. And I really enjoyed this show. So, yeah, reach out to Dawn Stewart if you're interested. If you're interested in joining my coaching program, you can reach out to me on a call. We'll jump on a call. We'll talk about it, my program, and we'll go from there. And maybe you'll be in our community. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Don.